Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/entitled people, where the people are truly entitled. If you enjoy, remember to like, comment, and subscribe so the channel thrives and does well. Now let's get started, shall we? She demanded I let her kid blow out my birthday candles. I was having a small birthday dinner with friends at a restaurant. When the cake arrived with lit candles, everyone started singing. Out of nowhere, a mom from a near table walks over with her toddler and says,
"Let him blow out the candles. He loves doing that."
I thought she was joking, but she was dead serious. I was caught off guard, but my friend stepped in and said, "It's her birthday." The mom actually scoffed and said,
"So, he's just a kid. Don't be rude."
I blew out my own candles and she walked away muttering like I ruined her evening. Sorry, but your kid is not entitled to hijack someone else's celebration. Here's how I would have responded, the narrator says. Lady, he's just a kid, but you are an adult, and you should know better. So, what's your excuse? Mental handicaps or something? I don't know, but I don't care. Now on to the next story. Entitled relative thought my BS marine transportation degree meant I owed them free cruises. I just graduated with a degree in BS marine transportation. First in the family to finish college, I worked hard and finally got my cadetship lined up. At the graduation party, my aunt pulls me aside and says,
"So now that you're basically a sailor, when can you get us a free cruise?"
I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She started ranting about how it's
"Only fair since my mom brags so much about my career."
She even told her kids to start packing for this imaginary cruise I was apparently arranging. When I told her I'd be working on a cargo vessel for 6 months straight, no ports, no passengers, she looked at me like I kicked her dog. She hasn't spoken to me since, and well, honestly, I'm okay with it. Entitled lady wants to use my yard. This just happened last summer, and I'm still kind of baffled. I was sitting in a chair on my front porch playing on my phone and had a lady drive up. I've never seen her or her car before. It was like a bright teal color, not something you normally see, so I'd have remembered it if I drove by often. She stopped outside my house and was yelling hello and waving at me. I looked up. I'm sure the confusion on my face was obvious, and I said, "Hello?"
She said, "I want to ask you something."
And now I'm annoyed like, oh god, are you an MLM lady? Some religious sect or something? But I just said, about what? And she gave me a weird look and said,
"I want to ask you something."
and I said, okay, about what? Again, with the look, she waves her hand around and says,
"I don't want to ask from this far away."
Now the red flags are going off, and I'm like, there's zero chance in hell I'm getting up and walking over to this strange lady's car, so I tell her to get out of her car and get a little closer. She doesn't seem super happy about this, but she just does and stands behind her car, so really not any closer than she was to begin with. Then she asked if my street has a lot of traffic. I told her it had a good bit, thinking she's worried about her car being parked kinda in the middle of the road, but no. Her next words really baffled me.
"I'm looking for someone to let me use their yard to have a yard sale."
I immediately just said, no, not here. Everything about this lady had already rubbed me the wrong way. There was no way I was letting her use my property for hours. She was flabbergasted.
"No."
I repeated, yeah, no, not here. She called me rude and was saying a bunch of stuff I didn't catch under her breath, while getting back in her car in a huff and just driving away. And I'm just sitting there like, why? There's also an empty field literally at the corner of my street, so, no lady, you aren't entitled to use my yard for your yard sale. Honestly, I would say that's gutsy. Asking to hold your yard sale in a stranger's yard. I think she's up to something fishy and wants to leave you holding the bag. I'm gonna be real here. Anyway, on to the next story. Entitled woman harassed me in my new car. This was almost over a year ago, and I was parked in my brand new SUV, sitting with my mom after we left the thrift store. As we were visiting, this woman came and knocked on the window. I rolled it down, expecting that she might need help, but nope, she wanted money.
Can you give me $100?
She asked. I have to admit, I was shocked. I sort of laughed and said no, thinking that she was joking. Apparently not, because when I said no, she says,
Why not? You look like you can afford it.
Lady, the only reason I have this stupid car in the first place is because I need something reliable for work and medical appointments because I am disabled. At the time, it was going to cost me the same monthly to lease a new SUV, and no, I am protected against any issues versus buying a used car. I could not care less about having a new vehicle. I am definitely not rich and would love to have a low or no car payment like I did before someone rear-ended me in a chain of vehicles colliding. I have that damn car because my dad died and left me enough money to put a down payment on it. I would rather have my dad. Thanks. Even if you could afford 10 brand new SUVs, why would that mean you had to give someone $100? It just reeks of entitlement, but I guess we are in r/entitled people, so it fits. On to the next story. Not feeling like moving? Well, there's a problem with the bill, sir. R/petty revenge might be a better place for this, but there's an entitled person in my story, so I used to take small summer jobs when I was a teenager. One year, I was working for the Port Authority's captaincy, I don't know how to say that in English, of a small village on a French island. It was an easy gig, wake up early and write down the names of all the leisure boats and their spot number. I would be done in under 2 hours, then I'd sit in the office until my shift was over. My only other task was to go tell the boat owners they had to go to the office when they hadn't paid for their spot or whatever. I hated doing that because most of the boats were yachts owned by rich-ass Italians who couldn't care less about a little French teenager bothering them on their vacation, speaking broken Italian. I sometimes had to bike to the same boat 4 to 5 times every 30 minutes to get them to go to the office. It was annoying for them, annoying for me, and got yelled at a few times. Not that I could understand what they were yelling. After a few days of the same dance, and specifically after one douche canoe shooed me like a dog, I decided to change my approach. Instead of asking nicely if they could go to the office, I would tell them there was an issue with the bill. It worked like a charm, and they'd be at the office in less than 10 minutes after my visit. My boss didn't like my new approach because they would come in all pissed off and stressed out, but I couldn't care less. Well, to be fair, you weren't lying. There was an issue with the bill. It wasn't paid. Good approach and very well done. On to the next story. Entitled client learns that professionals can in fact walk away. I work as an engineer. I do some consulting on the side, but typically only for people I know and as a favor. A good friend asked me to help his in-laws who were doing some fairly massive renovations and additions. I agreed solely because he asked me to. This is not something I have any interest or need in doing except as a favor. It's an old house and had a can of worms written all over it, with some of the changes they wanted to do. Now, he warned me that his mother-in-law can be unpleasant to say the least, but that was an understatement. She seemed to think that because I was being paid, I charged probably 1/10 of what a business would, that she could snap her fingers at me like I was a servant. I had a few unpleasant emails with her, but it was tolerable. She was rude when I was pointing out issues with their plans, but nothing too extreme. Well, that changed when I was trying to find time for me to stop by and inspect a few areas of the house to verify some information. I offered times to stop by on the weekend, but that didn't work for her. I tried evenings times, still no. She wanted me to stop by during my office work hours because that was best for her. When I told her no, this gets done on the weekends or in the evenings, she went from rude to incredibly hostile, telling me that she is paying me, lol, and that I work with her availability, not the other way around. I CC'd my friend in the chain and I told them I was out and to have fun working with whoever they get. The friend apologized. I said, no worries, not my can of beans anymore. And she emailed back quite stunned that I was walking away, telling me that
This is not how business is conducted.
I didn't bother responding. About 3 weeks later, I get an email from the husband, now asking me if I could reconsider, and he promises that his wife won't speak to me or be involved in any way. I hear from my friend that while the quotes came back much higher, which was tolerable for them, it was how long the wait was. They just bought this house and wanted to move in ASAP, but it is an incredibly busy time of year for the industry. Turns out when companies you reach out to are drowning in work and you have a potentially convoluted and messy project, they aren't exactly chomping at the bit to get your business. So now they're going to lose the trades they lined up because design would be a month or two out. I passed on the request as I struggled to believe she would be kept in check, and had no desire to bail her out. My friend didn't care and said it was nice watching her attitude give her consequences that actually affect her. Oh, that's fun. I love how you did this, and you stuck to your guns. I also love that your friend didn't care. I expect he was thrilled to see her get some consequences for her behavior. Am I right? Yeah, I'm probably right. And that's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed today's stories, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Consider checking out my horror story narrations while you're here, or else I'll have to rip off your toenails. Now, I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.